Well, we've had a 1 minute of silence, really to acknowledge the fact that our country is going through a bit of an unfortunate time right now, where, as Vincent indicated, our fellow brothers and sisters from the same continent are being made to run for their lives.
Yeah, it's just savagery indeed. And as netizens and citizens of this continent, we want to firmly stand against these xenophobic attacks and distance ourselves, and we want to say no to xenophobia.
Absolutely. And I actually don't know if this is not even Afrophobia, if you like, but you know,
actually,
we can only say that, you know, our fellow sisters and brothers from within this continent are paying the price for being at the wrong place at the wrong time in the townships in many places across our beautiful country.
Yeah, it's a beautiful country indeed. It's sad to see just ugly scenes portraying a very distorted image of what living together should look like. But nonetheless, we continue to add our voice to say what is going on right now is by no means an indication of the South African community and public at large, and we take a strong stand to say no to Afrophobia.
Absolutely, and whatever the reasons are, we really don't care. People don't have the right to be taking other people's livelihood and their lives in the process. Our beautiful country is really, degrading into something really very unfortunate. And we add our voice to all those out there who are saying, stop with this rubbish.
It's rubbish indeed. It's rubbish indeed. And remember, this show is all about taking digital Africa to the world. So the views that we express here go a long way to taking the African story to the world. Because
absolutely,
what we have to say here makes it to the audience, to an international audience rather. And it's our responsibility to just add our voice and say we on eNitiate Visual Radio, and I am sure I'm speaking for Radio Junto as well, to say that this platform will never ever be used to promote anything that bashes our fellow brothers.
Absolutely indeed. And you will all know, fellow netizens, those of you who listen to this show on a consistent basis anyway, we embrace Africa. We embrace the positivity on this continent. We believe that our continent has got so much to offer. We have taken a digital angle to display to the world that there is a lot of goodness that's happening in our continent, and we're not going to allow incidences of this nature to get in the way of the goodness. So stay with us. It is now 8:07. You are listening to eNitiate. Let's start again. eNitiate Visual Radio here on radiojunto.co.za. We are from a company called eNitiate Integrated Solutions. We offer digital content services to companies that are looking to establish a digital footprint in the most effective possible way.
Awesome stuff indeed. Thank you, Bra Willy, for that introduction. So, how we normally break up the show, we start with a view of what we have been up to at eNitiate as a company, and then we look at the country of South Africa, anything that made headlines of a digital nature, and we zoom in on that. Once we're done with that, we look at the continent, everything and anything that we believe Africans should be aware of, especially with a digital slant. We look at that, and of course today is no different. We are going to be focusing on some of the protests that took place in Guinea regarding the elections there. We're going to be talking about Sudan, but all of the details are going to follow in this Africa slot, which is going to happen later. And then finally we wrap it up with a global view. And I can tell you today we are looking forward to finding out some new stuff and latest developments to do with the Apple Watch.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Yeah, and then Google is also part of the global view, and you'll have to find out exactly what that is about. And last week we introduced a feature called Digital Yawn.
Yeah,
we're gonna throw that in just to lighten up the mood, and we always find an African of note to talk about, and today's no different. So stay tuned to every beat of the show, because we've got some great stuff coming up for you. So let's just do this before we jump right into it. Yeah,
Fire up that sound system.
this show is all about taking digital Africa to the world. So even when we express our views and opinions on topical matters, we'll come at it from a digital slant.
we have 5 logos now, and we have introduced all those logos out to the public. And what we're doing is we're writing for each of those logos, which really represents a brand or a business. Some of the businesses are already established, other businesses are still new. 4 of the 5 businesses are for profit, and the 5th business is a not-for-profit business, which is really us giving back. Welcome back. This is Bra Willy. You can find me on most of the social networks, including Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and Instagram.
Same applies with myself, Vince West. You can find me on Facebook as Vince West.
Yeah.
And you can find me on Instagram as Vince Lehata.
Yeah.
You can find me on LinkedIn as Vince Lehata.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
And we also have our company very active on various social networks. We are on Twitter as _initiators. We are on Facebook as eNitiators. We are also on LinkedIn as eNitiate Integrated Solutions. We are on Instagram as eNitiate_UNLTD. And we are also on Google Plus as just eNitiate. So look out for us. We spew lots and lots of interesting content, including the stuff that we talk about on this very show.
Okay, so let's start about last week's show. It has been published in the form of a podcast, which you can access on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy about that. And look out for the graphic work that Bongo Musa has done for us to kind of like package the podcast in a very visually captivating way. I liked what I saw.
Absolutely. And we also have published our latest company profile under eNitiate Contently. The motion graphic is on our eNitiate YouTube channel as well. We've been fairly busy on our YouTube channel, Vince, lately. We've also uploaded a snippet from the course that are facilitated in Kenya in September of 2014, the digital branding course. And we feature in this snippet a lady whose first name is Kawira. Go look it up, hear what Kawira is saying about the course that I delivered in September last year. So we really, busy putting up all sorts of interesting snippets of videos, so that, when you look us up on YouTube, you can find stuff.
Just a side note, Bra Willy, but a quick one. Imagine if you had gone to, you went to Kenya and the Kenyans turned on you and be like, we don't want you here. Whatever this course that you're bringing to workshop us in, we're actually going to kill you while at it.
Yeah, it is actually sad. I must tell you, Vince. We know that, there are various circumstances that are leading to this, but yeah, I suppose let it be a subject for another day, because maybe we need to debate it for what it's worth. The only challenge is that our show is about positive digital Africa. Yeah. While at the same time, though, we cannot ignore the fact that there's stuff that's happening around us, stuff that we cannot ignore, because this show represents the whole of the continent. Not it's not a South African show. It might be based in South Africa, but it's certainly not a South African show.
Yeah. So are we done with eNitiate, Bra Willy?
Pretty much. So hold on. The one thing that we must also say, and it's a bit of a bragging rights issue. We've been very busy with pitches lately, Vince. We spoke about it
about 2 weeks back.
2 weeks back. We were invited to pitch for 2 businesses in the last 7 days. I'm rather excited about both of them. So things are really shaping up nicely for us as a team, and I am excited. But as we did say to our netizens, unfortunately we can't talk about our businesses on air rather, purely because we want to keep a bit of an objective one when it comes to commenting about all sorts of incidents that are taking place. Obviously the bulk of them are going to be positive, but if we have to be criticizing anybody, we don't want to be accused for criticizing people in a biased manner.
Okay, cool. So now on to South Africa.
Indeed.
All right. So the very cool MEC of Education in the Gauteng province, in the Afro city of Johannesburg, MEC Panyaza Lesufi. Remember we spoke about him some time previously on the show. He was the MEC that launched digital classrooms, or e-classrooms, where children in the township schools were equipped with tablets, and he vowed to actually work on a plan to make the classrooms completely what's the word? E-ready,
Well, but Panyaza's vision is to turn education into a paperless system.
Paperless, that's the word.
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. He wanted to turn our classrooms into paperless classrooms. So he's been busy again. Now today I heard over the media that he was introducing a new system for parents like myself who are going to be enrolling their kids for big school next year. Tell us more about this, Bra Willy.
The one thing that I like about MEC Panyaza is that he's a very brave man. He's really shown all of us that things can be done. There's very little from him about talking, but there's lots and lots of action. He's now decided that he wants to go the paperless route for enrollments as well. We see pictures, especially round about any time from September going that way. We see pictures of parents who sleep outside the various schools. One such school is the Parkview Junior out here in Parktown, where parents literally, they queue for places for their kids. And maybe let's use an example of Apple. When we see people queuing for new Apple products outside the various iStores, that is what happens with school enrollments. And Panyaza is saying, why should parents waste time, queue from as early as 3 o'clock in the morning just to enroll their kids when actually they can do all of this online? And he's decided he wants to actually, launch the online application system. But we have heard that some of the schools may not be happy with this whole idea, because they feel that this system is going to disempower their SGBs. SGBs are school governing bodies, dear netizens. And I liked how MEC Panyaza rebutted the whole thing when he said, well, there is nothing like that. The SGBs will still have a major role to play insofar as school enrollments go. But he also went further, Vince. He said, the problem why some of these schools are so anti this kind of system is because they want to retain the previous system of being selective about which kids are going to be enrolled at their various schools.
Yeah.
And this system is going to tamper with that somewhat. And it is interesting hearing this from MEC Panyaza, because it's not the first time he's talking about it. You remember there was an incident in Ruriport at a school where parents were saying, they don't want black staff, including the black principal. And he went there and said, this can't happen. These schools belong to the communities within which they are located. You can't start and now dictate, the color of the stuff that you want in the various schools. And even in cases where some of these schools are located in communities where they are predominantly black or white, we know that he's been punting the fact that he wants white teachers to go to township schools. In the same way, he's saying it is time for black teachers to go to predominantly white areas. And, he's on a warpath insofar as this is concerned, MEC Panyaza. You actually have our support. We think that you are onto a definite winning. What's the word? Winning what?
Winning path, winning streak.
Winning streak. And we will keep talking about you because of the great things that you're doing. I was actually listening in on SAFM where he was having a debate with one of the school associations about this whole thing that, they feel that the SGBs are going to be disempowered. And somebody called and said, no, man, why is it that this is not happening in other provinces and it's happening in Gauteng only? Well, the MECs of the various of the other 8 provinces, it is really up to them to make sure that they put their provincial education departments on the map. MEC Panyaza is definitely doing great stuff, and he's got our full support.
Yeah, he's a very effective netizen and citizen.
Oh yes, and we also know that he's really very active on social media. I can tell you quickly, what are the numbers for MEC Panyaza, if I can get to them quickly. In fact, I will share with you his numbers on both Facebook and Twitter as we go.
By the way, shout out to the social media team for the city of Joburg, under the leadership and guidance of Tumelo. Is it Komani? Yes, Tumelo Komani.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
I've had to think about it for a second right there.
That's fine. And then the last one with regards to South Africa, something about the court system of South Africa going digital. This is going to be interesting considering the Oscar Pistorius case, where the whole judicial system of South Africa was seen through the lens of the cameras, and the hashtags were trending all in the courtrooms of the Lady Justice.
Okay, let me give you the numbers quickly for MEC Panyaza. On Twitter, he's got 5,766 followers. And on Facebook, he's running a personal account. He has 4,337 friends. And me and him share 21 of those 4,337 friends. I just thought I should mention it.
Okay, it's fine. You can be our Trevor Noah for today. Have your moment. Yes, it's okay. So that's it with regards to South Africa. And I think now, Bra Willy, we're going to move on to the continent.
Absolutely.
It's going to be an interesting one. Remember, this is eNitiate Visual Radio Show, the show that happens every Wednesday. Myself, Vince West, and Bra Willy bring you this show with the full support and approval of the initiators. We're based out in Woodmead, and we're a team of enthusiastic young people. Young being debatable, but go check us out on www.eNitiate.solutions. That's our handle.
Can I correct myself quickly?
Okay.
We share 167 friends, mutual friends, me and MEC Panyaza.
Cool. We're back after this water break.
It's being taught how to use tablets to produce as opposed to use tablets to just consume some more. And the point we're making is we shouldn't be complaining about these things. We should be the one telling the stories if we want the world to listen to us. We can't be asking why are the media telling only the French stories and they're not telling the African stories. are we telling those stories ourselves as Africans? That's the question we're asking. You can check us out on eNitiate.solutions. eNitiate spelled E-N for Nelly, I-T-I-A-T-E .solutions. Check us out and see what we do. We're back with you. The time now is 8:23. And actually, Vince, I must tell you what the times are in other parts of the world, interestingly.
Yeah, tell us about the GMTs.
Let's just look quickly.
Cool.
Okay, it is 8:24 in Johannesburg. It is 9:24 in Nairobi. It is 7:24 in Lagos. It is 2:24 p.m. in New York. And in Beijing, it is 2:24 a.m. In Mumbai, it is 11:54 in the evening. In Los Angeles, it is 11. Let's see. In Los Angeles, it is 11:24 in the afternoon. And in Miami, it is 2:24 in the afternoon. In Sao Paulo, it is 3:24 in the afternoon. London and Lagos share the same time, so it is 7:24 in London, and Amsterdam, and Berlin, and Rome. In Sydney, it is 4:24 in the morning. You want to know the two last ones?
Yeah, give me the two last ones.
Is it like in Brasilia?
I'm game.
In Brasilia, it is 3:25 in the afternoon. And lastly, in Abidjan, it is 6:25 a.m.
Wow, what a global perspective.
Absolutely.
So that's who we are, you know. Why is it important for us to give you the times? Simply because we know that we've got an international footprint. Let me confirm this. So according to our tracker, there are some people listening to us in the Indonesia area.
Yeah.
And then there is some listenership out in North America.
Yeah.
And some Netherlands. We've got some people listening to us there.
Yeah.
But really, what's this area here?
If you mouse over it,
I think it's Hong Kong, right? Hold
on. Somebody's listening to us in Hong Kong right now, Central District.
Yeah, we've got some listenership in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
I mentioned North America. What's this? Guadeloupe. Oh, that must be an island.
Yeah, it is an island.
It is an island. So, yeah, we are global like that. Of course, I haven't mentioned the
and
continent.
There's quite a few countries in Europe, as you can see.
Oh, they're
Britain,
actually,
Spain,
Serbia, Italy.
Man.
Oh yeah, so we're global like that.
Yeah.
So it's important for us
and there are people also in Brazil who are listening to us right now as you speak, and obviously in South Africa, because that's where the bulk of our listenership is sitting. So we're really grateful to all you netizens. Keep listening, but also equally importantly, talk to us. Go to the social networks for eNitiate, as we said. Twitter is _initiators. They're spelled THE_initiators, spelled ENITIATERS. And tell us how you think we're doing. And if you want to participate on our show, leave a comment and we will read it out and, chat back to you.
Awesome stuff indeed. 8:27. Now we're going to look at the global news, in fact the African news.
Absolutely.
That made
How can
headlines.
you skip the African news, Vince?
I beg your pardon. Okay, cool. Let's start with the elections out in Guinea, the protests that have been happening there around the whole election campaign, Bra Willy.
Yeah, Guinea was supposed to be having elections, Vince, and these elections have now been postponed, and the people of Guinea have gone on a protest. Interestingly, when you look at the pictures here, it's fairly young guys, which is saying the youth are rising against the the powers that be when it comes to elections. And this, even though we don't promote violence, let's look at the principle. The principle is people want elections because they believe that will bring them, prospects of better living and all those sorts of things that come with it. But at the root of it all, people want democracy. So we are seeing these sorts of protests happening in Guinea right now as you speak, because of the problem that the Guinean election has been postponed. I'd like to then move on, Vince, to Sudan. We know that there are two elections that are supposed to be happening in Sudan and in South Sudan. Starting with South Sudan, the election is supposed to be happening in June, but already there are rumors that the president of the day wants to postpone the elections and extend his presidential powers, which on its own is not a good idea, given that South Sudan is going through some kind of strife now as you speak. Now, Sudan, okay, the original Sudan. Sudan had a 3-day election that ended today, actually. It started on Monday and it ended today. Okay. The election happened, but not without a protest by some sections of the population who fear that the only sitting president, Omar al-Bashir, who is sought by the ICC for alleged genocide, will extend his rule. He's been in power for 25 years already.
Yeah, no. I heard something on the news. I think they were saying something to the tune of the former leader of Sudan.
Yeah.
Before al-Bashir.
Yeah.
He was recorded actually in a queue. On a queue to vote.
Okay, interesting.
And he was given no special treatment. He queued just like everybody else.
Awesome.
And obviously the ruler in power right now was given extra treatment when he had to go through and vote. But it was just interesting to just hear the dynamic that he even actually gave a statement. The statement was to the tune of he hopes that the election will be a free and fair one for the people of Sudan. So I heard that and I was like, interesting indeed. It's not a very usual sight to see a former leader queuing for a vote just like the ordinary citizen.
Quite interesting indeed. I'm trying to see if I can come across such a person quickly. I don't know if it is not Ahmed Al-Mirghani.
It could be. That's why
Ahmed Al-Mirghani, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we'll just get the fact, the actual fact on that. But it, like I said, I was just expressing a view that I heard something like that. So all that matters is that there was a election that happened, and we hope that it was a free and fair one for the people of North Sudan.
The trouble already is that even the UN are saying it may not be a free and fair election.
Yeah.
Because al-Bashir's party is such a dominant party already in Sudan. So there is already unhappiness, even from the UN before the results of the elections are declared. But anyway, a little bit about Sudan. There are 30 million Sudanese who are registered to vote. It will be interesting to see how many turned out, because they are going to pronounce on the results of the elections on the 27th of April, interestingly. The day when South Africa's first elections were held, 21 years ago. Some more about Sudan. It's a country of estimated just under 40 million inhabitants. The official language is Arabic, which is spoken by about 60% of the population, but there are 115 tribal languages that are spoken as well, in addition to Arabic. It is interesting that actually, even though Arabic is the most spoken language in Sudan, Vince, about 52% of the Sudanese are black Africans, and about 30 odd percent are actually people of Arab descent.
Yeah,
exactly. So it's interesting that it's not, when you look at the color, that doesn't mean necessarily that a different language would be spoken. And it is indicated that the diversity of Sudan is a primary reason that Sudan has been an unstable country for a long time. In fact, it has had so many coups. The last coup was experienced in 1989 when Omar al-Bashir took over in a bloodless military coup.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that the 15 candidates who are supposedly competing against Omar al-Bashir are virtually unknown people.
Yeah, it's a very interesting state of affairs.
Yeah,
it really is.
So it's gonna be interesting to see how that turns out, even though we kind of like see the end of it already.
Yeah. Some more interesting stuff is that even though al-Bashir has been in power for the past 25 years, there have been at least 2 elections in Sudan, including the most recent one having occurred in 2013.
Oh, okay.
2013, according to my facts.
Okay.
And another one happened in 1996.
Yeah, because I remember with the 2010...
is it 2010 or 2013? Let me check my facts. It looks like yours are much more accurate than mine.
Yeah, apparently in 2010, it was the first multi-candidate election. In 2010, and al-Bashir won with 68%.
Yeah.
But there were obviously rumors of vote rigging associated with that, and it was never one of those free and fair ones, even though he won with a outright majority.
In 1996, there was an election, but he was the only candidate.
Yeah.
How do you have an election with only one candidate?
Yeah,
quite interesting. Okay, let's tell some more about Sudan.
Yeah.
Sudan is the 3rd largest country in Africa.
3rd largest?
Yes.
Nigeria being 1?
No.
Speculation. Okay, I'm wrong.
The 2 countries before Sudan are Algeria and the DRC. In that order.
Wow.
Okay. And actually, before 2011, Sudan was the largest country both in Africa and in the Arab world.
This is before the split.
Before the split that we have now, where there's Sudan and South Sudan.
Wow.
Yeah.
We learn every day, don't we?
We learn all the time, interestingly. It has land borders with Egypt, Eritrea, Ethiopia, South Sudan, the Central African Republic, Chad, and Libya. It has borders with many countries indeed.
No, yeah, it makes sense that it's a huge country.
And for those of you netizens who don't know where Sudan is, it's to the north of our continent.
Yeah,
just making sure.
Okay, 8:36. Bra Willy, I'm sure we've spoken about. Okay, I wanted us to take a breather and then talk about a digital yawn just to lighten up things a bit.
But maybe before we do so,
or let's conclude rather.
Let's ask the question: why are we taking the time to talk about Sudan in the way that we're doing? Because people who are listening to this show who know that we keep saying this show is about us bringing digital Africa to the world. We also want to use this show to educate people.
Yes.
Across the continent, because we can't make an assumption that everybody knows where Sudan is and what Sudan is about. The fact that Sudan is the 3rd largest country, I must be honest, I didn't know this until tonight.
Me neither.
So our attempt is to also educate all the other netizens and ourselves while we're at it, so that we can have a better appreciation of our own continent. We've also said that elections are an important part of democratization of information and technology anywhere in the world, for that matter. So we are tracking all the elections on the continent with that in mind. So when you netizens hear us talking about elections and we take the time to kind of get into a little bit of the detail politically, what happened in the past, like we did with Nigeria when we were talking with Eric.
Yeah.
It's really making sure that we can learn something about our continent and not just talk about elections and leave it there. So there you have it, dear netizens.
We're back just now. Even when we express our views and opinions on topical matters, we'll come at it from a digital slant.
We have 5 logos now, and we have introduced all those logos out to the public. And what we're doing is we're writing for each of those logos, which really represents a brand or a business. Some of the businesses are already established, other businesses are still new. 4 of the 5 businesses are for profit, and the 5th business is a not-for-profit business, which is really us giving back.
eNitiate Visual Radio is the name of the show, and I'm Vince West, and oh, I beg your pardon. It's just Mother Nature doing her thing right there. So earlier on, one of the things we spoke about is that there's a new feature that we introduced last week, and it's called a digital itch or a yawn. So I've got a digital itch, meaning there's something that's really bothering me and I need to scratch it off because it's a very serious matter, and it's closely linked to the xenophobic attacks. So I checked out on Instagram and I saw that one of the South African rappers, Casper Nyovest, is experiencing some kind of cyberbullying. Somebody's on Facebook, this person is from Zimbabwe, was threatening Casper by saying if Casper Nyovest does not post anything on his social media platforms about his stand on the xenophobic attacks, then he must not come perform in Zimbabwe. And Casper Nyovest rose up and said, but how do you just intimidate and threaten me for my stand on the xenophobic attacks without actually having done anything? As much as I definitely agree that the xenophobic attacks are just savage and unnecessary, I don't think it's any better for anybody to bully any person, let alone be it an artist or a individual, simply because you are forcing them to take a stand on the matter. That is cyberbullying, and that just itches me up the wrong way. Eh?
I agree. The trouble with this situation, and I hope our own fellow South Africans realize the difficulty that they're causing for all of us. Interestingly, there was a chat that was happening with one of the eminent political analysts in South Africa, Dr. Soma Fikeni. And the question to him was, how does he think the people who are perpetrating these acts of xenophobia are kind of considering the fact that they're creating difficulty for business people across the continent? And he said, look, they couldn't care, because for them it's about the here and now. Here's a perfect example of what happens when we rise up against our own fellow Africans in our country and we treat them the way we do. Now, Casper faces the prospect that he might not be going to Zim, because he is now becoming the target for the Zimbabweans.
Yeah.
Which is really unfortunate. But I hope, those who are really involved in these acts are realizing the damage they are causing to brand South Africa, not only on the continent, but across the world.
Obviously, the likes of Bra Willy, the likes of Tebe Ikalafeng, those who are thought leaders in terms of tracking the performance of the brand SA on the platforms, be it online or just general performance, will give you these facts to say it has a direct impact on other trades that South Africa will want to embark on with other nations. So I certainly hope that our messages and our voice gets through to as many as possible to say that we need to stop this immediately. No to xenophobia and no to cyberbullying.
Absolutely. And you showed me a picture by one of our initiators, Nomvula, who actually, made a public statement.
Yeah.
Where is this picture? It's
on her WhatsApp.
Man.
Yeah, it's on her
Nomvula,
WhatsApp.
you should have put this on.
So
I think we should put up.
I think we should put it up.
Yeah.
We will definitely put it up. So I just caught a glimpse of this and I was like, I'm definitely gonna take this and put it up myself. I actually also posted something on my Facebook timeline as Vince West, and have a look at it on my timeline. You can just find me on Facebook as Vince West.
Cool stuff.
Awesome stuff indeed, Bra Willy. Let's look at our menu to see how far we are. We get so passionate when we talk about the continent.
We actually do. By the way, it is now 8:44 South African time, which is GMT +2. We are broadcasting on www.radiojunto.co.za. The show that you're listening to, and we have already indicated who's listening to us across the world right now. It's actually a good few continents, Vince, which is really great. The show you're listening to is called eNitiate Visual Radio. You can find us on various social networks and also on our own website. Check us out. We write quite a lot about all sorts of events taking place, including the work that we've been doing revitalizing our brand. Find us on eNitiate.solutions. eNitiate.solutions.
So we were speaking about Sudan and we gave some facts about the country, and I think we've covered everything under Sudan, Bra Willy. And now we can look at an African of note. Every week we've found stories, current or legacy related stories of an African who's definitely making strides internationally to represent the continent in a very positive light. And this week we decided to focus on the legendary Kofi Annan.
Absolutely. A man of mega proportions.
A distinguished gentleman and diplomat, isn't it?
Absolutely. There are times when I feel like we don't appreciate our own heroes enough. We hear this a lot from musicians. I remember at one stage, even Brahi was talking about it. He was saying, he gets standing ovations outside of South Africa, but here in his own home country, that doesn't happen. We are definitely going to go out of our time and find these people who've made major impact on the global stage and talk about them on the show. So, yeah.
So, Kofi Annan was born on April 8th in 1938. He is a Ghanaian diplomat who served as the 7th Secretary General of the United Nations from 1997 to December 2006. Annan and the United Nations were the co-recipients of the 2001 Nobel Peace Prize for their work for a better organized and more peaceful world. Annan, is the founder and chairman of the Kofi Annan Foundation, as well as being the chairman of the Elders. The Elders being a group founded by the late former state president Nelson Mandela. And Kofi Annan is now the chair of Africa Progress Panel.
Yep.
So the APP consists of 10 distinguished individuals from the private and public sector who advocate for equitable and sustainable development for Africa. Mr. Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the UN and a Nobel laureate, chairs the APP and is closely involved in its day-to-day works.
I didn't know this. Kofi Annan has a twin.
Get out.
Yes. In fact, the word...
Is it Morgan Freeman?
They look alike, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, he has a twin who has since passed on, a female twin.
Okay.
In fact, the word Ata, which comes across as a name here, actually stands for twin. And his sister, I think, passed on in the early 90s. So yeah, that's why he's got the middle name Atta, which refers to a twin.
If you don't know, now you know.
Absolutely. You know, Kofi has done so much for this continent. I love Africans who go out there and you know, perform all sorts of great virtues, and they still come back to the continent and contribute some more. Interestingly, I was listening to an interview, Vince, with some lady who's in her 90s. She's a professional nurse by training, and she was speaking to Ashraf Gada on SAFM. Now, I'd like to attribute this phrase that she used. I'd like to attribute it to Kofi Annan. She said, "I may be retired, but I'm not tired." I thought it was a classic, and we see that with Kofi. You know, since he left the UN, he's in fact become even busier on tons and tons of social causes.
True.
It takes a very special individual to be doing the work that Kofi is doing, and he's being involved in many projects across the continent, including in Libya. You know, during the time when Libya was in flames, he was involved there too, trying to urge peace between the warring factions of the Libyan society. So we especially proud. You know, I hate to point out, but Kofi is the second Ghanaian of note who we are talking about on this show.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is fact.
So, to the best of my memory, Vince, we've spoken about 3 Africans thus far who are worthy of mention. 3. One is from Uganda. The lady who she's the executive director of Oxfam. I don't know why I forget her name. The second one is Professor Alote, and now Kofi Annan. I know exactly who we must feature in one of our next shows, and I'm not going to tell the name now. He's also done awesome stuff, and he's worth a mention on this particular show.
Okay,
I'm
now
not going to tell. Don't even speculate. I'm not going to tell.
Okay, it's fine.
But I think all the netizens who know anything about Africans of note will agree that this particular gentleman is worth a mention on our show, and we will do so in a few weeks to come.
Okay, so I guess we'll all wait for that surprise, but I'm sure it's going to be a pleasant one.
And it's not going to be Nelson Mandela, by the way.
Okay, that's fine. For obvious reasons, we know it won't be Nelson Mandela.
No.
Okay, bravo.
He's been mentioned many times enough. I think it's time that we also find some of these heroes, not necessarily unsung, but heroes who deserve a mention, and you know, they're just doing their thing on the side, not making noise about it.
Of course, it's Thabo Mbeki. Okay, it's fine. We'll figure it out when it happens. With 9 minutes to go, let's cross the seas, Bra Willy, and look at news that happened globally. There's always enough news to talk about, but I love how we prioritize the African news first, and then we will just wrap things up with a global view. So, the Apple Watch, what I want for my birthday, but I have been convinced otherwise, is also in the headlines. Tell us more about this.
Well, sorry, by the way, I'm now doing it after you.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, you see, this show is actually run by human beings who are just as normal, you know.
I actually sneezed earlier and I didn't see it coming. I was like, okay, Mother Nature just calling me in the middle of a link.
We keep it as natural as it comes.
Yeah, no, it is nonetheless.
Anyway, the smartwatch, we know that when Apple first mentioned that they are busy with their smartwatch, a few other companies leapfrogged them, including their closest competitor, Samsung. They launched theirs ahead of ahead of Apple. They didn't seem to create a stir, as was expected. Apple now did. This was early in March. And they're having back orders going all the way to June. Okay? The first shipment still has to go out.
Sure.
But they're having back orders already, stretching all the way to June.
But this is not a surprise move, Bra Willy. This is the nature of the beast with regards to Apple.
You know, Apple is such an interesting brand. Interestingly, I in my talk at SmartLink, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about SmartLink, but in my talk at that forum, I actually looked at Apple and Harley Davidson, interestingly. And the question was, why is it that these brands have got such avid followers when they are not necessarily doing the amount of advertising that we see with the other brands? It's because, you know, brands like Apple, they make you own it as a consumer. And I know you love Apple as much as I do. I hate to admit it, but I do.
I'm stoked, man.
I must actually indicate, dear netizens, I have been using a PC for 16 years, but when I switched to Apple, I never looked back.
Yeah, no. Actually, I have to confess that you got me onto Apple.
Yeah.
And I remember it was actually so bad that before I bought my first Apple machine, I used to have a normal PC.
Yeah.
I used to have a normal laptop PC, and I had a sticker on the front of it, and it was a white sticker. And I drew the apple myself.
Yeah.
I drew. Do you remember that machine?
Yes, I do.
I drew that apple myself, and I stuck it there. It would get me attention every time I opened it. But I was telling them that I'm practicing, and the day that I actually got that machine was one of those happiest days.
Absolutely. You know, we can complain about the price, but when you compare value versus the cost, it's chalk and cheese. It really is. I'm so glad that I bought my first Apple in 2008. And I've never looked back ever since.
No.
Awesome mission to
It's
have.
Like you're buying into a brotherhood or a legacy.
You actually are.
Okay, this is such an Apple plug right now.
It is. And anyway, for that reason, it looks like I may have to kind of keep away from Harley Davidson because you know, everyone who has a Harley
will speak in the same light, yeah.
So maybe I must kind of keep away from Harley Davidson. Anyway, suffice to say that with Apple, you know, launching their own smartwatch, it has taken off, even though the first shipment is not out yet. And we hear that Samsung have decided, you know what, it looks like we're not going to beat them at this game. They have now gone ahead and relaunched, or is it relaunched, or launched upgraded models for their Galaxy 6.
The phone.
Exactly, because even there, the iPhone is giving them a run for their money.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, man. It's just one of those. It's like chalk and cheese, like you said.
It so is. So is. Anyway, we want to tell you that Apple doesn't pay us, by the way, for saying the things that we're saying about them tonight.
What a plug!
You know, we're actually giving them free advertising, which is rather unfortunate. But for all we know, we could be saying these things so that we can go back to them afterwards and say, guys, we're saying stuff about you. Come to the party now.
Yeah, they must hook us up. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. So, Bra Willy, I think this is now the last story as we bring it home. It's another digital brand which is trendy, and it's just one of those leaders of the packs. It's actually uncontested at the moment. Google.
It is. I learned that the European Union wants to charge Google with market abuse. They actually want to focus on Android, because the whole thing with it is that, you know, on the first count, the Commission said it had sent a formal statement of objections to Google, charging it with systematically favoring its own comparison shopping product in its general search results page. We know that, you know, Google pretty much owns 95% of the engine search engine market. And in addition to which, Google has got a program of partner sites.
Yes.
One of the claims is that, Google is giving preference to its partner sites insofar as search engine results are concerned. And it is abusing its dominance insofar as the Android mobile platform is concerned to sway people to its products and away from the competitor products. So they are facing an antitrust law in the European Union, and I see that they have actually responded.
Let's hear all about it.
Basically, it's a bit of a long memo that they distributed internally, where they are sharing stats on the shopping sites in the different EU countries to basically dispel the myth that it's only their partner sites that are doing well insofar as search engine results are concerned. The very first paragraph, and you can go read it up, we will actually put it up on our social networks. The very first paragraph goes as this: as the Financial Times has just reported, the European Commission will tomorrow issue a statement of objections regarding the display of ranking of certain search results, in particular shopping. This is obviously very disappointing news, especially for the search team that has worked so hard to create a great experience for our users over the last 16 years. Can you believe that Google has been around for only 16 years? You know what's the worth of Google right now? It's over $2.5 billion.
Certainly been a game changer.
You know what I mean? In only 16 years. Some companies have had a whole lifetime to do this, and Google has done it in only 16 years. Interestingly, even Facebook. But let me not digress. Suffice to say, Google are saying this is not true. They have circulated a memo, an internal memo, which I think is quite interesting, because they are basically saying, let's speak to our employees first before we speak to the outside world. But there's some smart ass who has obviously shared this with the public. So, and Google must have known it was going to happen. So they are basically listing why the claim by the European Commission is actually not factual. Go read it. You can find it on a site called recode.net. Recode.net. The title of the article is "Here is Google's internal response to the imminent EU charges memo."
So that's it, right?
It is indeed, and actually this was published on the 14th of April, which was yesterday.
Awesome stuff indeed. Now, as we bring the show to a close, let me end off with a yawn. Digital yawn.
Go ahead.
So with the South African Premier Soccer League coming to the home stretch.
Yes.
So one of the leading teams, in fact the leading team, Kaizer Chiefs.
13 points ahead of the rest now.
The main goalkeeper Itumeleng Khune was sent off during a very heated game last week.
Yeah, against
Amazulu. So he goes on to social media and he starts ranting, raving, he starts throwing, he starts kicking, he starts screaming.
Yeah.
And he just says the referee was biased, the referee was against him, And myself, as an Orlando Pirates fan, I was yawning about this because it was like, come on, man, we hear this all the time.
It means you're also biased.
Take this from where it's coming from. It was a yawn because we all know that referees will most of the times do what they need to do and players will not be happy about it.
Yes.
And Kude, even though you apologize for it, I think, man, it's just an old yawn. You need to just
You should have known.
You should have known.
You should have known.
There's no story there. There's no story at all. It's the last stages of the league, and of course you're gonna squeal.
Absolutely, but well done to Chiefs thus far. I'm not a Chiefs fan. I'm not going to reveal which soccer team I follow. I'm not a Chiefs fan.
You follow Initiators FC. That's who you follow.
I'm glad you kind of kept it nice and clean. We've come to the end of our show. We are actually 2 minutes over, but thanks for sticking with us, you fellow netizens across the world. We love you to bits. Until we meet again next week.